One of the things that you have the basic qualifications. So there's different levels of qualifications. The basic stuff is what is your current financial situation? So every brand we're gonna need to look at your liquid capital. So that's your checking and your savings amount, as well as maybe your 401k, stocks, other things like that, just to have an understanding of what are your liquidity. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that that's how much money you're going to spend, but they have to understand how strong you are financially. And they don't want you to buy something at your limits. They want you to have plenty of money left over. The bank also wants to see that your lifestyle isn't going to change that dramatically because they know at the end of the day, people rarely change their lifestyle. So if you can't afford the business while maintaining your lifestyle, they're usually going to say no. Another thing is, so that's liquid capital. Then you have net worth. They're going to look at your total net worth, which is like liquid capital plus equity in a home or businesses. And then they're going to look at your credit score. And those are great indicators of how you will be as a business owner. One, have you been able to accumulate wealth? Okay. Not only do you have enough to do this, but if you make good decisions, you're able to accumulate wealth. You're able to retain it. And in your credit score is your ability to pay back loans and pay back debt, regardless of whether you're going to get a loan or not. That's a good indicator to a franchise brand that you're making solid decisions. They're also looking at your zip code because, believe it or not, franchises are done by territory. So if it's a retail location, you might have a 3 to 5 mile circle on a map so that no business can be around you in a strategic area within that amount of time. But also you have other businesses where you go to the customer and they might have a collection of zip codes that add up like 200,000 people as one territory. I believe I was doing some research just the other day, and the average franchisee, I think, owns around 5 territories. So when you have one, it's a good start, and they make every territory to be viable. But your people who really leverage it, who have the time and the money, is your multi-unit owners.
All right, guys, welcome to the Winner Circle podcast. Today I have an exciting discussion. If you ever dream of owning profitable business but don't know where to start, or if you ever thought of building something from the ground up and it feels a little bit overwhelming, then I must say you're in the right place today. I'll say I am thrilled to welcome a super guest. So, not just a super guest, a consultant, you know, a certified consultant, Lance Wood. He's not just only an entrepreneur, he's also a former MMA fighter. He has the expertise to match clients with businesses that align with their specific goals and aspirations. His experience has been nothing short of remarkable, from managing a large team, in a 24/7 food production facility to launching a successful real estate business. His diverse background equip him with unique insight into what it takes to thrive in today's business landscape. And one thing that's unique about him is the fact that he's known for his personalized, data-driven approach, firmly believing that franchising can be one of the most effective ways for the average person to build wealth. So, Lance, good morning.
Morning, Jay. Great to be speaking with you today.
All right, good to have you on the show. So, I am curious. I'm really, really curious. I can't wait to get this show started. How did your journey take you from being an MMA fighter to becoming a franchise consultant? What inspired that shift?
Well, I loved fighting and powerlifting and stuff like that, but there just wasn't enough money in it at the time. The heavyweight champion at the time lived in a double wide trailer. One fight you could win, but you could spend your money at the hospital. So I decided to fall back on my other passion, which was business. And so I took off, started my own company. I actually started a real estate company, walked out of my job 9 months later, made 3 years income, didn't enjoy it. And then I started interviewing successful people, probably some of the people that you interview. And I decided that actually wanted to empower people to get into business and transition to franchising because it was a way that we could see the actual results that other people had seen. And there's so much coaching and assistance that it's there. The only thing is matching it to you because like you said, not everybody actually should be a business owner, or there are businesses that are different based upon you as a person and your goals and your situations. Because getting into the wrong one is just, even though it's good for somebody else, may not actually work well for you. So there's really some fit involved.
I went through your, your profile also. I see you have a background also in logistics and construction. So, you've got such a diverse background. So, how do you think that experience or those experiences have shaped your approach to franchising?
Well, I think that if you look at a lot of the franchising, like the ones that are actually more profitable per dollar in, per dollar out, are really the more home services and construction based brands. Those are the core services that we all need. If your power went out today, you have to get it fixed. You can't wait until, you know, 6 months down the road to take care of it. So those are core services, and it's given me insight into how these different businesses work from a B2B office setting business to a hands-on blue collar, grinded out business. Experiencing all those different businesses has really helped, to understand both sides of the equation. So I like it. I like what I do, but I also really love the physical work. I do not mind construction. Yeah, and I think that putting yourself into the shoes of other people, a lot of my background when I got out of high school and started into college, I took a 30-day course in psychology because I just loved how people think, and I think that is one of the big things that clicked for me. That some people think that when you put money into the stock market, it's all about just picking something that appears to be a winner. You put money in at the right time and you pull money out at the right time. That's how it kind of works in a simplified way. But as a business owner, you're the one driving it. Like you're the driver, so it's not like an investment. There are a few companies that are designed to be more of an investment as a franchise, but a lot of them you're the leaders. You have to just think it's not just how the brand is done for other people. It's what you will do with it. Because if you don't run it properly, it's not going to reach its full potential. But those are things with mindset, like you teach on this program, I'm sure that the mindset of an entrepreneur will help you achieve a lot of success.
The mindset of an entrepreneur will help you. And, just straight up to the point. You have to have the mindset first before any other thing. So now I know profile you have like access to over 900 brands, and I was saying maybe 1,000 now. So how do you go about finding the perfect match for your client? What's the secret sauce for this process?
What I would say is that I have about 55 questions that I typically ask people that go from everything from who they are, what they've done, their financials, their time commitment, how they feel about certain roles that they would play in a business, and how they also feel about the different types of businesses that are out there. By the time we're done, everybody has a lot of clarity on exactly what would make sense for you because we have to look at your goals. Not every business is going to match your lifestyle and your goals. And some businesses, if you've ever done something that you can do it, but it is a drag every single day, you just don't enjoy it, you don't look forward to it, we need to find something that works for you. For some people, the dream business is actually vending where there's no employees, they're fully in control, and it's only a couple days a week. So it really makes a difference. And with some people, they wouldn't touch it if there wasn't a possibility to make $500,000 a year net. And so we have to look and see, are you set up to run that? Can you afford that? Is it available in your area? But those are out there. And with multi-unit ownership, there really isn't a limit. I mean, there's people out there that own 10, 20, 1,000 locations, and they make crazy income, but they're very organized. They have put themselves in a spot where they don't think it's the franchise that's doing it. They know that they're the one in control and they're driving it.
So would you suggest some client or someone who's looking to franchising to focus on the passive kind of franchising where they don't have to do a lot, or the one they have to get involved?
You know what? You're saying something really great, Jay. And that is that There are different models. There's an owner operator model where it's almost like it's your own startup business and you're putting the time and effort into it. There is semi passive over time, meaning that over time you're allowed to put a manager in place and you manage the manager. Typically, they're looking for that to be 15 to 20 hours a week. There's also manage the manager at onset, and there are a few. The more passive you make the business, the less options there are, because that's a really hard model for a business to replicate, to take a bunch of random people and help them have a semi passive business. So it's more work, but they do exist. And I would say with some of them, there's literally nothing you have to do. There's a few to where 1 hour a month is all it takes, not a big investment. But with that said, the more passive, it costs a little more to get started and you generally make a little less money. The reason is you're paying somebody else to do the work, right? So you have to spread your profits to compensate, or you're having machines do the work. So if machines are doing the work, you have a big upfront cost to pay for that. So semi-passive is that, but it usually takes a little more money, or you have to be a better leader in many situations.
So you have to be a better leader. So now I still have a question, something to discuss about, especially when it comes to leadership, in franchising, and have to be, you know, directly involved, also, sailing the ship yourself of the leadership of the franchise itself. Most of this franchise organization, they have their own policies, they have their own guidelines that you have to follow. So I'm going to ask questions about that
Mm-hmm.
much more later. But right now, I just want us to just quickly touch on the myth around franchising. So what are some misconceptions you hear often, especially from those just starting out into franchising?
Well, one of the biggest things I think is that people think that if I go with a brand that is a big brand, that is where the success is because everybody knows them. What I would say is that the big brands invest a lot of money into making sure that anything that would contradict that they're successful and profitable is suppressed. And it's very simple. All you have to do is when you're going through the process, you look at the franchise disclosure document and you can see in the item 19, if they publish income, how much they're making. And then you look in the item 20 to see how many people are coming and going. And what you find is these these lists or these awards that are out there, I don't know how these people can be on the list because their numbers are not that good. And there's these young startups that might have 10, 20, or 100 locations. The numbers are way better, and you can start some of those for 150, 250,000, instead of like 3 million. Like, I just don't know how some of these companies still are told to be a great brand when any person can look through the numbers and go, this is not, good. So misconception is the big names is where there's safety, because that's just not true. Some of the other misconceptions is if I look at the brand performs this much, I'm going to make this much. You could make more or you could make less. It's really dependent on you, the people you choose to help work with you, and how you leverage the system. Unless, like you said, you have a semi passive brand where it's just kind of done for you. And the only way, if something is like super done for you, the only way I think that really works is if the people who are managing it have a share of the profits and they make $0 unless there's a profit. Then, their work is also for naught if you're not profitable. So those are the kind of the methods that seem to work. There has to be accountability for everybody, and then you do have to keep an eye on it. You can't just, when it's first getting started is when things are the most tense because they're getting, what do you say, dialed in to work properly. If you just start something and you don't pay attention at all, things can go off the rails. So you have to keep an eye when it's getting started just to make sure it's running.
Right. So you said that some of these big businesses, they just have all the hypes, and it's not like they really have concrete numbers compared to even smaller businesses. So
Mm-hmm.
now my thing is, how can someone figure out which type might be the best fit for them?
Well, one of the things that you have the basic qualifications. So there's different levels of qualifications. The basic stuff is what is your current financial situation? So every brand we're gonna need to look at your liquid capital. So that's your checking and your savings amount, as well as maybe your 401k, stocks, other things like that, just to have an understanding of what are your liquidity. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that that's how much money you're going to spend, but they have to understand how strong you are financially. And they don't want you to buy something at your limits. They want you to have plenty of money left over. The bank also wants to see that your lifestyle isn't going to change that dramatically because they know at the end of the day, people rarely change their lifestyle. So if you can't afford the business while maintaining your lifestyle, they're usually going to say no. Another thing is, so that's liquid capital. Then you have net worth. They're going to look at your total net worth, which is like liquid capital plus equity in a home or businesses. And then they're going to look at your credit score. And those are great indicators of how you will be as a business owner. One, have you been able to accumulate wealth? Okay. Not only do you have enough to do this, but if you make good decisions, you're able to accumulate wealth. You're able to retain it. And your credit score is your ability to pay back loans and pay back debt, regardless of whether you're going to get a loan or not. That's a good indicator to a franchise brand that you're making solid decisions. Because what most people think when they first come out and they're new to buying a business, they think, well, I'm going to take and I'm just going to buy it. I have the money. Well, it's not that simple. This is a business partnership. You're forming a partnership with this franchise. And so they're looking at you going, is this person going to be a top operator? Nobody, even you, if you hire employees, do you want somebody who's going to be a top operator at that job, or do you want somebody who's going to be a bottom level person that's just never going to work out? They're always trying to sift through and find the best possible operators. And they're looking for that through your financials. They're looking at through how professional you are, how you interact. So they're looking for someone who's engaged with the brand, who knows what it is, who's interested, who has the money, who acts like a leader. So meaning that if you make appointments to talk with them, that you show up. It's okay to push them back or cancel, but do that as quickly as possible. You don't want to be flaky and you don't want to not show up to a call because they're going to assume that you're going to do that with customers, right? Could you imagine you have customers and you're just not paying attention to them? So you're representing their brand. It's a partnership. So you have that. The other thing besides financials, they're going to look how much time you have. They're going to look at obviously your mindset as a leader. They're asking you questions to see. We ask people questions to see the limits of their understanding, right? And so they're paying attention to how well you are. They're also looking at your zip code because believe it or not, franchises are done by territory. So if it's a retail location, you might have a 3 to 5 mile circle on a map so that no business can be around you in a strategic area within that amount of time. But also you have other businesses where you go to the customer and they might have a collection of zip codes that add up like 200,000 people is one territory. I believe I was doing some research just the other day, and the average franchisee, I think, owns around 5 territories. So when you have one, it's a good start, and they make every territory to be viable, but your people who really leverage it, who have the time and the money, is your multi-unit owners. And the reason that the brands push multi-unit ownership is, think about this, Jay. If you were going to have 100 locations of your franchise company, do you want 100 people with one location each that are figuring it out and you're training and supporting all 100 people? Or do you want 10 people with 10 locations each? You have far less support. You have more committed people. So they're always looking for multi-unit owners because that is the goal. In fact, once you're a multi-unit owner with one franchise company, you have to watch out because the paparazzi is going to chase you down because everybody's going to want to work with you. You are the goal of every franchise company.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarity. So, but there's one thing you didn't mention, and I was thinking about that, is what key metrics do you often look for when helping someone choose a franchise? Because right now, most of your statement was from the side of the what the franchise company look out for
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
operator. But what about the operator? Because they are also having a
Mm-hmm.
commitment. So what are the key metrics you often look out for when helping someone choose a?
Hello and welcome back. You guys, the listeners, are my powerhouse. So I have something I want to discuss with you guys today. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to shine a spotlight on an incredible opportunity that could revolutionize the way you approach your business. So now the question is, are you ready to take your business to the next level? Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or a team member striving for excellence, I want to say Point of View Consulting in New York is your partner in strategic transformation. Whether you are in Texas or you are in wherever the city you are in, so far you're in the United States, they are helping businesses transform their business. So they are not just a consulting firm, they are your catalyst for change, a coaching powerhouse, and a branding leader, all rolled into one. At Point of View Consulting, their services includes strategic consulting, executive coaching, brand development, and performance optimization. And one interesting thing about this brand, Point of View Consulting, is right now they're offering an exclusive free consultation just for you. Now, this is your own chance to gain invaluable insight at no cost. Plus, when you decide to move forward with any services, just use the promo code Winner Circle Podcast to receive a hefty 30% discount on your services fee. It's simple. Imagine the transformation you could achieve with an expert guidance and a fresh perspective. So don't let this opportunity pass you by. I want you to visit www.pointofviewconsultinginc.com. So that is Point of View Consulting NC.com today to book your complimentary consultation and embark on a journey of growth and success. Now, let's get back to the show.
Franchise.
Well, I look for one, their lifestyle goals. So they will have a financial goal. So, because that's a big part of business is making money, right? So I look at their financial goal and I see how realistic they are. Realistic for what they're bringing to the table and what they want to make with the business. So once I understand their financial goals, I also understand their lifestyle goals. What is the long term? Are you trying to work full time? Are you trying to retire and sell this in 10 years? Are you, what is your goal? And I have to find businesses that are shown to match these types of things. And so I'll look at those goals. I'll also look at your background and the activities that you're good at. I always ask people, so what are you really good at and what do you like doing? And I'll collect that. I'll also run different tasks around business ownership and operations and see how well they enjoy doing it and how happy that would make them on a scale of 1 to 10. And because if somebody is just not really interested in sales, what that tells me is that we have to avoid businesses where there's a strong sales element to it, because they're just not into that, which means we have to focus on marketing. You either do sales or marketing to feed your business. Sales can be done far cheaper, far simpler with a smaller operation. Marketing takes a lot of leads, but it doesn't require sales because people go through a process and kind of like what do you say, self-select and self-purchase. So I'm going to look at those types of things. I'm also going to look at what's available in their area. And some people, they're more prone to businesses they're familiar with. They're more prone to different industries. So I'll go through about every type of category that I can tell, unless someone's like, Lance, you know me, what do you think's going to hit the goals? I'm open-minded, and then I'll just go straight to what I believe will hit the goals and see how they feel about that kind of business, because there's many kinds. Some businesses have a very high startup cost because they have a building, right? The building is usually the bulk of the cost of starting a business. So the less of a building you have, the cheaper it is to start up. As an example, let's just say an urgent care clinic. Can you imagine? You have a clinic, you have all the medical equipment, you have a lot of employees, you might even have some prime real estate. very expensive startup, right? And you have a lot of variables, but it's a consistent need business. And then you can go down to something like a service business where maybe you have plumbers that go to people, and so that's a lower startup cost. You have a small office and some vehicles, very simple business. Even less of a startup cost would be coaching. So, right, if you're doing coaching, you could do that from home. You have a marketing cost, but you might have to do you're going to do your own lead generation at first. You may have to sell your service, and then you have to fulfill your service. And so if people aren't into sales, then they have to hire somebody to do the selling for them. So that takes more money. So we just look into their resources, their goals, and try to find something that works. And some people, even though I know the business does great, they in their head have this belief that there is not a need or that's not a business that would work, even though I can look at the financials and I see the reality of what it's doing, regardless of what you think it's doing. So I have that insight into. Sometimes I try to open their mind a little bit, and other times I have to just work within what they believe is going to be the best business, and I help them either way.
Okay, you just work with what they believe will be the best business for them,
Yeah, you
correct?
can't change their mind. I used to try to go, these are the best businesses, and then people are like, no. So I'm like,
I just
okay,
wanna,
well,
I just want to buy McDonald's,
yeah.
want to buy Chick-fil-A instead of that particular business that has more potential than that. So now let's talk about a little bit of challenges because I know when we have the good words, when I mean the good words, I mean when you have a good flowing business comes challenges at some point because challenges is part of life. You, whether you're playing soccer or you're a driver, of an F team, there's a challenge to life. So what common challenges do you see new franchise owners facing, even with all the support, they get from the franchising company?
Some of the things that I see is if people are not used to tech, then sometimes there's a learning curve. Because the reason is that I've had to do these activities for my life, but now that I'm doing this, the company to keep metrics, because the reason these franchise companies are effective is they can see the numbers and the metrics from all the different companies together, and then they can react to what's working and not working. Well, that means you might have to learn. If you're not good at email, seems basic for some people, but other people, email is a big deal. Like it's that in and of itself. I have seen somebody that takes 30 minutes to write one email. So that's it. If you've never had to,
I didn't know it was a big deal for some businesses.
some
Wow.
people, yep, I don't know, but I have seen it. Slack, logging into different marketing programs just to see it. You want to log in and see your numbers. Every franchise company is different. Some companies will give you more of a white glove where they kind of set things up for you and train you, and other companies say, here, we need you to set up this account and we need you to connect it. And they're like, if you need help, there's a support team here to help you either through us or through the vendor. So don't see franchising as a commodity product. See franchising as a group of people providing a product to you, and everybody can provide it differently. Some people are going to give you far more help, and other people are going to give you less help and say, that's why we picked you. You're going to have to grow and learn and go against your comfort zone. And so that's why I have an idea of the culture of the company. The culture of the company is driven by the leadership team. So when you say, most people look at the business completely wrong, they'll look at the business as they look at it from the standpoint of this business is a commodity that produces something. And if I buy one, it will produce X units for me. But businesses are really designed through a collection of people. So the culture of the people are going to make every business opportunity, every franchise different. And so when you have to go, I have to bet on something, I would bet on how well you like the people, because they're going to also be the ones that are researching things and improving things or not improving things. They're going to be the ones that are helping you compete with the competition, or they're just not. Some people build it up to a level and it seems like they check out or they get in over their head. And other companies, they're just on top of the world and they're crushing it. And so sometimes the less sexy brands have the better teams. A team that's trying to impress you, it to me is less valuable than a team who comes alongside you and sits down and goes, "Here, Jay, let's fix this right now. Let's just take care of it." I don't want to send you to a knowledge base. I want to just help you now. So definitely when you're vetting it out, they're both vetting each other. You want to make sure that you're picking the right people. And that's why we have a lot of conversations with the franchisees and the franchisor.
And the right people, very important. So I was gonna make a mention on this particular thing I thought of, and the word is, what signs should someone look out for that indicate that they need to pause and rethink their pursuit of franchising? They have to get what signs do you think they have to get to, or what point they have to get to, even in owning a franchise? They need to know that, oh, you know what, let me pause and rethink whether this is for me, or maybe I should just start my own business.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple things between, starting your own business and a franchise. I would say one is getting into business ownership, and I'm sure you advise people on this. You cannot have your team cannot be the source of your success or failure in your head. You first and foremost are the success in your own head. And so for you to decide between any business in general, you have to take ownership of your decisions and your outcomes. If you find yourself as constantly a victim to circumstances, maybe change your environment, maybe change who you're around, but at the end of the day, maybe you have to make decisions and just take ownership for things. So that's the business owner mindset. First of all, whatever it takes, right, Jay? Whatever it takes is what you need to do to be successful, regardless of the help or team around you. If you're looking to be between a business or a franchise, look at it like this. A lot of people that get into a franchise, they might be somebody who is just an average guy who's just like, I don't want a boss. I just don't want a boss. There's also all the way up to people who are like the number 2 person in the company, right? They are the CEO of a company. They're running it for somebody else so that other person gets the lifestyle and the money, and you have all the responsibility, right? So you're actually working harder sometimes than the owner as the CEO. So what you have to say is do I have the comfortability to take that one step up? It's only one step up. You're already doing all that work. You could do it for yourself. But between a business and a franchise is about wanting full control. As a franchise, you're following a system, and that system's there to support you, and that's your safety net. As a business owner, you're like, I don't want to do what somebody else tells me to do, and I want to change things. I want to do things completely my own way. And so in that situation, maybe you start smaller and maybe you do it your own way because you're just going to have a conflict with people. So, but there is a cousin to franchising called business opportunity. And when I have somebody who wants to do something in a space, but they don't want total control, they personally want a lot of control, and they want to maybe even name it their own. Like, I want this to be Jay's Sign Co., not, a famous name. So in that situation, we will look, and there's less of them in the business opportunity space. Something people think of a business opportunity as like a coaching program that you buy for a few $100 and we'll teach you how to do this. But there's actually business opportunities all the way up to the equivalent of a franchise. You won't have a royalty, but they're not going to provide the amount of support that a franchise has. They're really there to get you into business and provide a suitable amount of support, either through a collection of the business opportunity owners all helping each other as a community and providing limited support, but they're going to stay out of your business and kind of let you do your thing. They're just helping to get you open and trained. So that's kind of a good mix. And if you just have your own unique idea, I think you might have to just be your own business owner. If you want a business that, if I also get people that say, I need a business that fills me up and, gives me purpose in life, A lot of the franchise companies are just services that help people that are needed. They're not like a nonprofit where there is like no like nonprofit style franchises. Like if you like working with pets, there's pet franchises. If you like, working in medicine, there's a medical franchises, but most of it is just providing a service that people need. It's not a franchise that's trying to change the world. They might have something where they give back to a cause through a percentage of stuff, but it's really, trying to find the things like that are really not there. And if you want your own unique idea, then I would say start your own business. If you want to leverage something, I've really come to see franchising as leverage. The people who do it really, really well, they don't care. They just use it as it's just like a stock portfolio. They use it as a way to build wealth for themselves, and they're just interested in the outcome and not being tied to the prestige of the product.
Thank you so much for that clarification. So the question I was going to ask, talk
Mm-hmm.
about earlier was in regards to someone, the scalability of the business,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a franchise business and there's all these rules and regulations and things you can do. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's all these terms and agreements you need to abide by, especially when you own a franchise. So what's this scalability like? Can you overscale enough, bringing in your own leadership style and navigate through the waters without so much guidance from from the corporate, I
Mm-hmm.
would say.
So corporate is really just making sure that you follow general best practices. They're really not micromanaging you. In fact, if you look like this as a franchise, the difference between a chain and a chain wants to keep all the money and they want all the control. A franchise says, we really just want to be a coaching and training organization. That's a franchise. We want to like help you get started and then support you and share in the revenue. And we're willing to give up money. Think about it as a franchise. I mean, as a chain, if they're able to keep 30% to the bottom line, right? They keep 30%. But if that same chain were to become a franchise, those franchise locations may only pay them 6 to 8% royalty. So they're not making 30%, they're making 6 to 8. And then they still have to cover all their costs of corporate. All those employees at corporate, all those things that corporate's working on, all have to be funded on that 6 to 8%. So they have to be willing to make less money to just be a coach. So they don't want to manage you as a franchise. They just want to make sure that you're making smart decisions. You're not going to do anything that hurts the brand because the brand hurts corporate, but it also hurts all the other franchisees. So they just want to make sure that you're not doing anything illegal. Like let's just say if you use the term McDonald's, let's say you have McDonald's, but you also decided that you wanted to offer pizzas out the back door. They're gonna be like, you can't be selling pizzas. And they're like, well, I also have this line of frisbees that I created at home with my son, and we want to sell our frisbees. While people are there, they can buy a frisbee. They'd be like, no, you have to just sell the McDonald's products that are approved by McDonald's. Like, well, I want to create a commercial, and we're all going to go to a water park with our McDonald's. We're going to be holding the McDonald's burgers we saw. They're like, no, you can't do that. We have to approve the marketing. So they're just there as guardrails. They're not there to control you. They're just there to help, make sure that everything, you know, when they get to the top, they just want to make sure that they maintain that prestige and that everything works properly. So yes, you have some control, but it's not there to oversee you because that would take so many more people to track everything you're doing. They just don't want you making, I say, gross mistakes, large mistakes. They're just there to keep you on track. So it's not as much as you would think. Now, the amount of control or non-control is due to the culture of the company. Is the culture of the company like that? Some brands, as the brands grow, the culture will change. So let's just imagine this. I'm a new franchise business. I just got started. I have no franchisees. I'm the most enthusiastic I've ever been. This is my baby. It's my dream. Nobody has one of my locations yet, but I just know they're going to get one. Well, I'm enthusiastic. I'm also like, listen, if you want to change something, Jay, I'm open minded. Let's talk about it and you can change stuff. You want to run it different? Let's do it because I'm hungry. I want to get this going. And I know that the first 20 locations are going to make or break my brand. It's either going to take off or it's going to not take off. So I am going to work with you. In fact, here's my cell phone number. So when the young brands, they're hungry, they're enthusiastic, and then the numbers are good and the model's good, they're some of the best because guess what? They still have availability in your area. As they grow, let's say 21 units to 100 units, they're starting to kind of like crystallize into more of a firm business. Like they want you to do things just a certain way because they're starting to get their more, what do you say, fixed way of doing business. So they're going to be great, but they're going to have a little more structure. And then once you get to over 100 units, they might say, just do this. Please don't change anything. This works. Those are generalizations. There's also big companies that are like, Jay, if you want to change something, let's talk about it and let's try it. Hey, you're helping us find what works best. Like we're going to work with you. So it's all the culture, which goes back to the people who run the business.
Hey, winners, as we continue our journey together today, I want to share something truly special with you. Over the years, I've had the privilege of coaching countless business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, guiding them to achieve breakthrough results and unlocking their full potential. So I'm opening up just 4 slots for my monthly business coaching program. That's right, 4 slots. After being fully booked for the past 3 years, if you're ready to elevate your business with personalized guidance, proven strategy, and a supportive community, I'm here to help you navigate challenges, refine your vision, and achieve your goals. So if you're committed to taking your business to the next level, I want to hear from you. Reach out to me directly at jay@winnercirclewithj.com and discuss how we can work together to build the future your business deserves. So don't wait. This is your moment. Join Winner Circle and let's embark on this transformative journey towards success together. And now let's dive back into today's episode.
So in one word, it's way better or is advisable for potential or aspiring business that want to consider franchising to look at small franchise company compared to major corporations, correct?
Yeah, they're all going to have their benefits. You're going to have more structure with them, but with the younger ones, you're going to be more of a partner. They're going to work with you. It's kind of like you and your buddy, like, hey, let's do this. So it depends on the personality of the person that I'm working with. I will recommend, listen, based on you, I think we should consider some of these brands and maybe one of these. And I might narrow down 500 to 900 brands down to 7 to 10. And then our goal is to go, okay, let's shortlist this to the top 2. I don't think that we usually recommend that people have 2 just because we don't know if you're going to get approved. Right? There's a whole process of the validation and approval process, and I cannot guarantee. I do my very best to tell them this is the person. This is the next greatest franchisee you're going to have, and I promote you and talk great about you, but at the end of the day, we just don't know if you'll get approved. So it is good to have a couple, but the process is so involved with some brands of learning about them that 3 of them would probably send your brain into muscle cramps and it wouldn't want to go any further. So I really think 2 is the sweet spot.
So now, for those who are sitting on the fence about, diving into franchising, what encouraging words or I would say advice would you share with them?
Well, I would say this is if it's been a reoccurring theme in your head that I would like to do this, I would like to own my own business, I would like control of things, I know that I was made for more, I know I could do this. If that's sitting there, it's probably not going to go away. And if it goes away, that would be, hard. I know as a business owner myself, I spent my life always wanting businesses and starting businesses, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I would have been miserable if I would have stayed in my job. And as a business owner, I now start up multiple businesses. I run 4. I get it. I would say if it's there, let's explore. Let's just see what's possible. There may or may not be something that makes sense for you, but the only way we're going to know is just by looking. And if we find something if we don't find something, that's okay. Maybe we'll touch base again down the road. But I would say don't just leave it out there. When they talk to people who are in the nursing homes who are older, and they always say, would you change anything? They usually like, I would have risked more. I would have asked that person out on a date. I would have started my own business. I would have tried more. I would have had more experiences. I would say go for it, but let's try to make it as safe and controllable of an experience as possible so that you get the outcome you're looking for.
Thank you. Thank you for the perfect word. You have a long time fast spent, over 50 minutes, and it feels like as if we just got started. And we've not even got started. We are in this segment called My Point of View. I just have to say my point of view about this topic. Before we continue our conversation, I'm just gonna make my own point of view, my perspective on what we've discussed so far. And because for me, I feel franchising itself often gets overlooked as a viable option for business ownership. I truly believe, and I've always had that belief, that franchising is a game changer for many aspiring entrepreneurs. The idea of owning a business itself can be daunting. The fact that franchising allows individuals to step into a proven business model. It's about leveraging the hard work and success of others while also being part of a supportive network. You mentioned the word network. So for anyone who may feel uncertain or overwhelmed about entering the business world, and you've been listening to this show for months and you're still undecisive on what step you want to take, franchising can provide a structured pathway to success without the steep learning curve of launching a startup. So whether you're looking for an opportunity to shift your career, gain financial independence, or simply explore what's possible in the business world, my point of view is franchising deserves serious consideration. So you can take that leap of faith. You remember what we used to say in Winner Circle? Fail forward. All right? Take a leap of faith. Join the network that can actually change your life. All right? So let's dive back into the discussion. How can the franchise owners support the people who are buying their franchises? How best can they?
One is make sure that they vet them properly, that people aren't getting into the system that are going to get over their heads. Two, I think that what they really need to do is I'm an advocate of them bringing it to the people. So I would like them to have a more standardized approach where they actually do more of the startup for the franchisee. Budget it in that they put the resources aside to do more of the setup for the franchisees, right? Versus giving the franchisees more of a playbook and a checklist. The other thing is, and I'm a big proponent of this because I do a lot of stuff in AI, and I'm working with putting every franchise has their playbook, their instruction manual that has all the secrets in it, right? Well, I've been talking with some brands right now about putting it. We have some AI agents, and so they can dump all that knowledge into there and all additional new knowledge and everything that they've ever learned into this. And then when people call up, they can not only have the course material facilitated to them over the phone and taught to them by the agents, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, starting the 2 minutes after they sign their franchise agreement, but also whenever there's a challenge, they can call and have that agent help provide instant access to that knowledge because they can read that, however many million characters of knowledge and give you the exact answer in a second. I think that getting information to people quicker and then just being that true partner, doing more for the people and making sure that you're only getting people who are set up for success based upon already having some level of, being primed for this opportunity.
So for listeners who are thinking about franchising, they're
Mhm.
listening to this show and they're so happy that they want to get started. What would be the first step for them to take to get started?
Well, what I would say is I have the website ARC Franchising. On there, there's a spot to just book a consult, and we would just talk and just first of all just make sure that it makes sense. I mean, I don't help everybody. I don't think everybody's right for franchising, but there's always some sort of opportunity or investment that makes sense for most people. So I would say, if you have reasonable funds, usually with most brands, you're going to need a credit score of, you know, 650 to 700. 700 is really what they're looking for, and you're going to need 25 to 50,000 liquid to buy a franchise. Now, if we look at smaller things, but even with vending, you're going to need, $25,000. So if you meet those criteria, let's just look at your goals and talk about it and see what's out there.
You talked about consultation. So if someone want to reach out to you and learn
Mhm.
more about your consultation, so what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Definitely, I would either use our website, which is arcfranchising.com. There's a spot right on the side to book in with me. That's really the best way, and you can learn a little bit more. There's some audio on there to listen to, but booking a consultation, that's the number one spot. You don't have to prepare. There's nothing you have to do, nothing you have to know. In fact, if you're looking too far out, it's like real estate. See a property for sale and you want to buy that property, you're like, I'm going to buy that property in 2 years. Well, it might be sold. It might be sold in a week. So we really need to look when you're ready to look because everything changes. And here's the thing, the good brands, they're going to be around forever. You see them, advertising all the time. That's because it takes them a while to sell because they're good. The incredible brands, sometimes they're gone in 2 years, the whole country. So sometimes with those, you got 1 year. And if you don't catch them when they get started, you're just looking for a good brand.
Thank you. So now, looking ahead, the franchising landscape itself changing in the next few years, especially when you look at the economic shift we've been experiencing with a lot of tariff or no tariff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that business is business. We're all going to eat. We're all going to work out. I do think that there's going to be more of an implementation for bringing AI into everything to simplify things. And I don't think that that's necessarily a thing that is like putting people out of work. I think it's freeing people up and it's speeding things. We're going to have people that now are getting 100 times more work done through the use of AI. So instead of you doing it, you're just overseeing stuff getting done. So I don't think that it's putting people out, it's moving people to different things and allowing people to get more done. And I believe that the rise of AI is going to make more entrepreneurs because it's going to be so much easier for you to be a business owner with AI than it ever was before. And it's going to take less people to run a business. So I think we're going back to our roots of where the country becomes more entrepreneurs, not employees.
Last but not the least, your first consultation is free, correct?
It's all free.
All right.
I will never, the only thing that I have is paid is if you want to drive the bus. So if you're like, here's my list of 100 brands, I want you to go research them, that's different. I do matching based upon you, and that's free. But most people prefer to just go with free. And so I'm never charge you a thing.
Thank you so much. So, and it's a great day and it's a long day. And we've used almost an hour and it feels like we just got started. We can do 2 hours of this show and we'll not be bored because we have a lot. I have a lot I really want to learn about franchising with Lance, but we still have more time. We still have time to come, to come and discuss another angle of the show, another angle of franchising. Hopefully, we'll bring him back on the show soon. And that's it. So I want to say a big thank you to Lance Wood for sharing his incredible insight on how franchising can be a pathway to owning a profitable business without starting from scratch. And if you look at his expertise and all the personalized approach he offers, you know that you don't need anybody to tell you that you are in the right hands. So if you found today's discussion helpful, I encourage you to reach out to Lance for a free consultation. He doesn't charge for consultation. So if you're interested in exploring your franchising option, so as always, thank you for tuning in to the Winner Circle podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe. You rate and leave a review because your feedback help us continue to bring you valuable content and inspiring guests, or I would say inspiring super guests. So until next time, I want you to keep striving for success and remember, you're only one decision away from a completely different life. So stay motivated and I'll see you in the next episode. And stay in the winner circle. All right, till next time, guys.